Hey everyone. So, have you ever finished a book and then gotten into a huge debate with a friend about what it really meant? I mean, you both read the exact same words on the page, but you walked away with totally different ideas? How does that even happen? Well, today we're going to dive into a concept that explains just that. It's called reader response criticism, and trust me, it's going to completely change the way you think about reading.
All right, so let's just jump right in. To really get a handle on the reader's role, we have to start with this one huge question. It's a question that kind of shakes up everything we think we know about where the meaning in our favorite stories actually comes from. So here it is. Is the meaning of a book something that's already hidden inside, like some kind of buried treasure that we just have to dig up? Or is it something that we, as the readers, are actually helping to build, that we're creating with our own minds and experiences? Just let that sink in for a second. It's a real game changer. Now, to even begin to answer that, we need to talk about this massive shift in how people thought about literature. We're talking about moving away from seeing a book as just a thing on a shelf, to seeing it as something, well, something much more alive. This slide really breaks it down. For a long time, the main idea was something called new criticism. You can think of it as the old map. It basically said that the meaning is locked inside the text, and that's it. It's fixed, it doesn't change, and your personal feelings about it, your emotional response, nope, that was seen as a distraction. They even had a name for it, the affective fallacy. Basically, the mistake of letting your feelings cloud your judgment. But then, this new worldview came along, reader response, and it flips the whole thing on its head. It says meaning is actively created by you, the reader. Your role isn't just a side note, it's absolutely essential. Reading isn't about finding an object, it's about having an experience.
And that brings us to this core concept, the text as an event. So reader response theory says a book just sitting on a shelf is basically just ink and paper. It's dormant. It only truly comes alive when you pick it up and read it. You know, a great analogy is a musical score. The notes are all there on the page, but the music itself, the event, that only happens when a musician actually plays it. And in this view, you, the reader, you're the musician. You're the one bringing the whole thing to life inside your own head.
Okay, so if reading is this big event, how do we even begin to analyze it? Well, reader response isn't just one single idea. It's more like a whole toolbox of different approaches. So let's look at 5 key lenses that each give us a different way to understand what's going on when we read.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to walk through transactional theory, affective stylistics, subjective theory, psychological theory, and finally, social theory. Each one of these puts the spotlight on a slightly different piece of that puzzle between you and the book. Let's get into it.
First up, we've got transactional theory. This one sees reading as a kind of partnership. The text is like a blueprint. It gives you the layout, the structure, the basic facts. But any good blueprint has gaps, right? Spaces that are left open or indeterminate. As the reader, you're the builder. You bring your own experiences, your imagination, your feelings, and you fill in those gaps. You're the one who builds the final structure. So the meaning is a transaction between what the text gives you and what you bring to it. Our next lens, affective stylistics, gets even more granular. It's all about the journey, not just the destination. Instead of asking, so what did this whole book mean? It asks, what is this sentence, this paragraph doing to me right now in this very moment? It's analyzing your experience as it unfolds. So if a long, confusing sentence makes you feel anxious or lost, guess what? That feeling is part of the meaning. It's all about the process. Okay, now we're getting to what might be the most out there lens of them all, subjective theory. This idea says, look, the book with the printed pages, that's just a physical object. The real story, the literary work, is what it calls a symbolic object that you build completely inside your own mind. So get this, when you talk about what a book means, you're not actually interpreting the ink on the page. You're interpreting your own experience of it. Your personal response isn't just part of the meaning, it is the meaning. And moving from the purely subjective to the deeply personal, we have psychological theory. This one suggests that we all read through the filter of our own unique psychology. Thinkers in this field propose that we each have an identity theme, kind of like our own personal pattern of hopes, fears, and ways of coping. And according to this theory, when we read a story, we unconsciously mold it to fit that theme. We use the story to work through our own stuff, through defense, fantasy, and transformation. Now, so far, a lot of this has sounded pretty individual, right? All about what happens inside your own head. But what if I told you that even when you're sitting by yourself in a perfectly quiet room with a book, you never read alone? And that brings us to our final lens, Social theory. This idea basically argues that our so-called personal reactions are actually shaped by the groups we're a part of, what it calls interpretive communities. Think about it. Your high school English class, that book club you're in, even an online fan forum for a series you love. All of these groups teach us how to read. They give us a set of tools and expectations for what to look for and what counts as a good interpretation. So in a way, you're using strategies you learned from others before you even cracked open the book.
So we've looked through 5 very different lenses, from the personal to the social. But this isn't just some abstract academic exercise. Let's talk about what this really means for you, and the power this whole idea puts directly into your hands.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that reader response theory validates your experience, your unique connection to a story, your emotional reactions, the weird interpretations that nobody else seems to have. All of it is valid. It's not a mistake. It's not a distraction. It's a fundamental part of what literature even is. These ideas give you the language and the tools to understand not just the book in front of you, but also your own powerful role in bringing that book to life.
And literary critics use these tools all the time. One really cool one is analyzing the implied reader. Now, this isn't a real person. It's the kind of reader that the book seems to be talking to. By figuring out who that is the book addressing a skeptic, an expert, a romantic? We can get a much better sense of the kind of experience the author might have been aiming for. It's a really powerful way to analyze a text.
So, we end up back where we started. Is meaning found or is it made? Well, reader response suggests it's more like a dance between the two. The text lays out the steps, but it's you, the reader, who brings the performance to life. And that's really the heart of it all. You are not just a passive consumer of stories. You are an active co-creator. So the next time you open a book, the question isn't just about what the story is, it's about who you are in that moment. What kind of reader will you choose to be?